Picture this. You are standing in the center of the Arena di Verona. It is Friday, March 6, 2026.
Which is just a completely wild scene to imagine right off the bat.
It really is.
Yeah.
You are inside a 2,000-year-old Roman amphitheater. I mean, this is a massive stone structure that actually predates the Colosseum.
Right.
And right now, under the lights of a massive global broadcast, that ancient architecture is serving as the stage for a man mixing vinyl records using a bionic hand.
A bionic hand that is literally reading electrical signals from his residual muscles.
Exactly. It is this incredible juxtaposition, ancient history hosting the absolute bleeding edge of human adaptation.
It's the perfect image for what we were talking about today.
Yes, because that is the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Paralympic Games opening ceremony. And for today's deep dive, we have a huge stack of on-the-ground reporting, official committee statements, and technical breakdowns from the event.
There is so much to cover here.
There is. Our mission today is to cut through the information overload and give you a front-row seat to the biggest, most complex Winter Paralympics in history. We are looking at a convergence of advanced prosthetics, shifting global demographics, and some very tense international politics.
Which all collide in one place.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with that setting in Verona. So, the ceremony's theme is Life in Motion, or Vida en Movimiento. But beyond the broadcast spectacle, the choice of this specific UNESCO World Heritage Site comes with a highly specific urban planning strategy.
Yeah, and that strategy is actually the most permanent aspect of these entire games.
So,
Well, when the president of the organizing committee, Giovanni Malago, addressed the crowd, he made a real point to say that Italy will ultimately be judged by the legacy left behind, not just the medal counts.
which makes sense because sporting mega events often face fierce criticism for building, temporary infrastructure that just rots away after the closing ceremony.
Exactly, the classic white elephant stadiums. So to counter that, the Italian government leveraged the momentum of these games to inject a 20 million euro investment directly into Verona's historic center.
Wow.
Yeah, they didn't just build a temporary ramp, they completely re-engineered the accessibility of a 2,000-year-old city.
Which has to be notoriously difficult, right? Retrofitting ancient European cities for wheelchairs or visual impairments usually runs into endless red tape.
Oh, absolutely. The historical preservation rules are intense.
Right.
You are dealing with uneven cobblestones, ancient stone steps, protected ruins. But they use this fund to update public spaces, map and cave accessible urban routes, and even modify parts of the ancient arena itself.
And they did all that without compromising its UNESCO status.
They did. So long after the international press leaves, the people who actually live in Verona and the millions of tourists who visit will navigate a fundamentally modernized, accessible city.
That is incredible. And that permanent shift in the physical environment perfectly mirrors what was happening on the stage regarding the human body.
The performances were just
Mind-blowing.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about those performances because the fusion of art and adaptive technology was fascinating. They paired Stuart Copeland,
The legendary drummer from The Police.
yes, with Cornel Riscamun. And Cornel is a celebrated drummer who was born without forearms and has a severe leg disability. They performed this massive booming drum sequence that just echoed through the stone arches.
It was so powerful.
And then we saw DJ Mikey Bionic. He is the world's first DJ with a bionic hand. Our sources noted his prosthetic uses sensors to read muscle signals, allowing him to perform a live set.
And to really appreciate what DJ Mikey Bionic was doing up there, we have to understand the mechanics of myoelectric prosthetics.
Break that down for us.
So traditional prosthetics are often body-powered. They rely on cables and harnesses. A myoelectric arm, however, doesn't require any physical pulling.
It uses surface electrodes embedded inside the socket of the prosthetic, which rest directly against the user's skin. Because even if a person is missing a limb, the brain still sends electrical signals down the spinal cord to the residual muscles in the stump.
So the muscles are still twitching, even slightly, based on the brain's command.
Exactly. Those electrodes detect that minute electrical activity, the muscle contraction, and amplify it.
That is wild.
A microprocessor inside the arm then translates those biological signals into mechanical motion. It tells the motors in the bionic hand to open, close, or rotate.
And think about the dexterity required to DJ.
Yeah.
You are not just grabbing a large object like a cup.
No, you are manipulating tiny dials, crossfaders, and scratching vinyl with micromillimeter precision.
For a myoelectric limb to read a muscle signal and translate it into a movement fluid enough to mix a live set in front of a stadium audience, that represents a monumental leap in biomechanical engineering.
It completely redefines what we consider a physical limitation.
It really does. And that theme of transforming states carried through the entire visual design of the ceremony. The artistic directors, Alfredo Acatino and Adriano Martella, centered the stage design around a single drop of water.
What's fascinating here is the layered metaphor they employed. The visual narrative tracked this drop of water transforming from a liquid state into a solid state.
Into the ice and snow required for the sports we are about to watch.
Right. But on a deeper conceptual level, it represents the athletes themselves.
How do you mean?
Well, water adapts to whatever environment it is placed in. These athletes, armed with the kind of biomechanical engineering we just discussed, are forcing their environments to adapt to their bodies.
Oh, I see.
It is an inversion of the traditional model of disability where the environment is the barrier. Here, the technology and the athlete's sheer will neutralize that barrier.
That concept of neutralizing barriers was on full display during the torch relay, too. The design of the new essential torches is sleek, it's sustainable, but the logistics of the lighting ceremony broke entirely new ground.
It was unprecedented.
They lit cauldrons simultaneously in 2 different cities. You had Francesca Porcelato, a 15-time Paralympic medalist, lighting the cauldron in Milan. Meanwhile, Gian Maria Del Maestro, a visually impaired alpine skiing champion, lit the cauldron in Cortina d'Ampezzo.
All happening at the exact same time.
Right, while wheelchair fencer Bebe Vio brought the flame into the arena in Verona. But the broadcast then pulled off a transition that absolutely nobody expected.
A brilliant piece of programming.
They cut from the torch lighting in Italy directly to the International Space Station.
Just incredible.
European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adnot beamed down a message alongside Michaela Benthaus. And Michaela is an aerospace engineer who also happens to be the first ever wheelchair astronaut.
Talk about neutralizing barriers.
They delivered this message from orbit about defying limits. Seeing a wheelchair user floating in microgravity, where the physical limitations of gravity on the human body are completely erased, it felt like the ultimate expression of the life in motion theme.
It also provides a stunning measure of how far the Paralympic movement has traveled over the years. If we look at the sheer mathematics of these games, the growth trajectory is steep.
Because this year is a major anniversary.
Yes, this marks the 50th anniversary of the Winter Paralympics. The inaugural games took place in 1976 in Sweden. And at that time, you had fewer than 200 athletes from just 16 countries.
And they were restricted to competing in only 2 sports, right? Alpine and cross-country skiing.
Exactly, just those 2.
Fast forward to today, and the scope is massive. The reporting shows over 600 athletes from more than 55 nations.
A huge leap.
They're competing in 79 different medal events spread across 6 sports.
Yeah.
Para-alpine skiing, para-biathlon, para-cross-country skiing, para-ice hockey, para-snowboard, and wheelchair curling.
But beyond just the raw numbers, the geography of the games is shifting.
We're seeing nations making their Winter Paralympic debuts that are not traditionally associated with winter sports at all.
Not even close.
El Salvador, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Portugal, and Haiti all have athletes on the snow and ice this year.
The inclusion of nations like Haiti and El Salvador highlights a crucial development in adaptive sports infrastructure. Historically, Winter Paralympics have been heavily dominated by wealthy, snow-heavy Northern Hemisphere countries.
Right, because the barrier to entry is notoriously high.
Extremely high. You need specialized adaptive equipment like sit skis or bespoke sleds, which are incredibly expensive, plus access to specialized training facilities.
So for an athlete from a tropical nation to secure the funding, the equipment, and the training time to qualify for the world stage, it requires immense logistical maneuvering. Ralph Etienne, the flag bearer for Haiti who is competing in para-alpine skiing, spoke to this exact struggle. He told reporters, "I'm still processing that I am standing on the world stage carrying my country's flag. I secured a spot for Haiti in the Winter Paralympics for the first time in history. For me, this means being an ambassador. It is a force for good."
The weight of representing a nation that has never been seen in this specific arena before must be staggering.
It creates a powerful blueprint for future athletes in those regions, though. Once the pipeline is established, the funding and local interests typically follow.
That is usually how it works, yes.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If we are tracking the major demographic shifts at Milano Cortina 2026, the real headline is the record-breaking female participation.
This is a huge turning point.
There are 160 women competing this year. That is an 18% jump from the Beijing Games in 2022. It marks the fourth consecutive Winter Games where women's participation has increased, and 5 out of the 6 sports have hit historic highs for female competitors.
And that 18% jump in just 4 years is not an organic accident. It is the result of aggressive, targeted policy changes.
By the governing bodies.
Yes, for decades, winter adaptive sports suffered from a severe gender imbalance. Following Beijing, the International Paralympic Committee instituted strict mandates regarding gender parity. This forced national committees to invest heavily in their grassroots female pipelines.
They basically mandated growth.
Exactly. They expanded the number of medal events specifically for women, which incentivized countries to fund female athletes because there was suddenly a higher potential for national medal yields.
That structural change is highly visible when you look at the individual delegations arriving in the village. Australia, Brazil, and South Korea have all sent their largest women's delegations ever.
And Spain is a fascinating case study here.
Their delegation actually features more women than men, 5 women and 3 men. Their flag bearer, Audrey Pascual, is a prime example of the intensity these athletes are bringing.
She couldn't even attend the opening ceremony in Verona?
No, because she had to be locked in, preparing to compete in the downhill event the very next morning.
The cultural reverberations of this visibility are profound. Elite sport serves as a highly visible proxy for societal capability.
That makes a lot of sense.
When a global audience watches a record number of women with disabilities executing high-speed, high-stakes maneuvers on a mountain, it forcibly rewrites the public consciousness regarding both gender and physical limitation.
Laura Dwyer, a U.S. wheelchair curler, captured the emotional weight of this shift perfectly. She suffered a spinal cord injury in 2012, and speaking to reporters about this record-breaking year, she said, "As a woman, as a mom, as someone injured, it feels incredible to be part of this, to show the way for others."
Showing the way for others puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the athletes, though, which brings us to the psychological reality of the Paralympic village.
Reading the dispatches from the ground, you get a real sense of the human element behind all these statistics.
The pressure cooker environment?
Right. Take the U.S. wheelchair curling team. Sean O'Neill and Dan Rose were remarkably candid about their nerves. Due to various qualification and roster shifts, their specific team was only officially assembled in November 2025.
That is a terrifyingly short preparation window for the Olympics.
Oh, absolutely.
Because curling relies heavily on chemistry and nonverbal communication, both of which usually take years to develop.
And Rose joked with a reporter that up until now, the most people they've ever played in front of was maybe 5 people at a local rink.
And now they are stepping into an arena with thousands of roaring fans and global television cameras.
The relatable terror of sudden public speaking, combined with elite athletic competition, is a wild psychological mix.
It is. Contrast that anxiety with the athletes who are competing on home soil, where the pressure manifests entirely differently.
The Italians are a perfect counterpoint to the U.S. curlers. They are fielding their largest team in history with 42 athletes. René Di Silvestro, the para-alpine skier, grew up near the very slopes he is racing on.
He has a distinct home field advantage.
He took home silver and bronze in Beijing, and when asked about his mindset for these games, he didn't mention nerves at all. He just said he is hungry for gold.
I love that.
Then you have Chiara Mazzell, one of the Italian flag bearers. A reporter asked for her overarching strategy, and she casually replied that her goal is to just go very, very fast.
There is a distinct localized confidence there.
For sure.
The village is an intense psychological pressure cooker, even before you factor in the external pressures of the world stage. But unfortunately, international sporting mega events do not exist in a vacuum.
No, they don't. So what does this all mean when global geopolitics breach the perimeter of the Paralympic village?
It is a complex situation.
We need to look closely at the boycott that took place during the opening ceremony. According to the on-the-ground reporting, 7 European nations officially boycotted the ceremony in Verona. Those nations are Ukraine, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland.
And this coordinated absence was a formal protest against the presence of Russian and Belarusian athletes, who are currently permitted to compete at these games under their national flags.
To understand the mechanics of this boycott, we have to look at the governance of the International Paralympic Committee.
Right. Following the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the IPC initially imposed strict sanctions, heavily restricting the participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes.
But the IPC operates as a democratic body.
Yes. In 2025, the General Assembly held a vote among its member nations. The majority voted to lift those previous restrictions, allowing athletes from Russia and Belarus to return to competition under their national colors.
It's important to clarify the parameters of the protest, though. The reporting confirms that while these 7 nations refused to march or participate in the ceremonial events in the Arena di Verona, their athletes have not withdrawn from the Games themselves.
They are still actively competing in the sporting events over the next 9 days.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it illustrates the perennial friction between international sport and national foreign policy.
The General Assembly's vote was a procedural democratic decision within the framework of the sporting body. However, for the nations neighboring the conflict, the presence of those flags carries a geopolitical weight that supersedes sporting protocol.
You cannot gather representatives from over 50 nations and expect them to just shed their historical and political contexts at the door.
No, you can't. IPC President Andrew Parsons addressed this friction directly during his speech.
He defended the 2025 vote by pointing to the democratic mandate of the Assembly, but he also validated the boycotting nation's right to protest the outcome.
He essentially had to navigate the impossible task of acknowledging a fractured globe while championing a unified event. He even noted that the outbreak of war in Iran prevented their sole representative from attending altogether.
In response to these realities, Parsons pitched the concept of the Paralympic Village as an aspirational blueprint. He called it a model living of what society can and should be, free of politics.
He argued that the village is a rare space where national differences are utilized as a source of competitive strength rather than a reason for violent separation.
It is a profound, if fragile, ideal, and it really encapsulates the immense scope of the Milano Cortina 2026 Games. Through our deep dive today, we have tracked a massive, multi-layered event.
We covered a lot of ground.
We started with the sheer architectural contrast of myoelectric bionics operating inside a Roman arena. We explored the logistical hurdles of tropical nations making their winter debuts, the structural reforms that led to a historic surge in female competitors, and the raw psychological pressure of performing on the world stage.
All of this happening while the governing bodies attempt to insulate the purity of athletic achievement from the realities of international boycotts.
This raises an important question regarding public engagement. Why is it vital for you, the listener, and the general public to witness this convergence of technology, sociology, and sport?
The organizers clearly understand the necessity of an audience. Our sources indicate that 89% of the tickets for these events are priced at €35 or less, with entry for children under 14 starting at just €10.
That is an aggressive pricing strategy designed specifically to remove economic barriers.
They want the masses in the stands, because witnessing this level of human adaptability firsthand permanently alters how a society views capability.
When you watch a skier navigate a downhill course with near-zero visibility, or a snowboarder execute a jump using a prosthetic knee engineered to absorb massive shockwaves, your internal baseline for what is physically possible shifts.
It changes your whole perspective.
And that leads to a final thought I want you to consider as these games unfold over the next week. We've discussed the rapid advancement of adaptive technology, from DJ Mikey Bionics' muscle reading arm to the aerospace engineering that supports wheelchair astronauts.
The innovation curves in biomechanics and prosthetics are steep, and they are accelerating fast.
Historically, this technology has been designed to level the playing field, to restore a baseline of function for para-athletes. But as artificial materials become lighter than bone, and myoelectric motors become faster than human muscle fiber, ask yourself, how long will it be before the technology designed for para-athletes surpasses the biological limitations of able-bodied sports entirely?
That is the big question.
If a bionic limb eventually allows a skier to turn sharper and absorb more force than a biological limb ever could, how will we redefine the very concept of athletic achievement?
We are rapidly approaching a horizon where the classification of disability may be entirely inverted by technological enhancement. It is a thrilling, highly complex future to anticipate.
It really is. The athletes in Italy right now are the vanguard of that future. Thank you for joining our discussion today on the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Paralympics. Keep your eyes on the slopes, keep questioning the systems around you, and as always, keep exploring. We will catch you next time.